to Everyday Therapists. I am Kristen Sanders, licensed clinical social worker. I'm so glad that you could join me in listening to conversations with interesting people who are working as full-time therapists and helping people every day to reach their goals. If you are a therapist or interested in becoming a therapist, these conversations are for you. If you are licensed in the state of Texas as a social worker, marriage and family therapist, or licensed professional counselor, and are interested in getting continuing education credits for listening to this conversation, you can go to my website at www.theolivetreecounseling.com/podcast. All of the clinicians who are interviewed in these conversations are compensated for their time and experience. My guest today is Rae McWilliams. Rae is the owner of Equity Counseling. Rae and I crossed paths through the magic of the Google algorithm. They were looking for office space, and I had office space available. And I am so glad that they found me because they've been such a wonderful addition to our office group. I never feel that I have enough time to talk with them about their passions and plans, so I hope that you enjoy hearing from them as much as I do. Hi, Rae. Thanks for joining me today.
Glad to be here. I hate when people say that. I always said I would never say that. And
well, I'm glad you're here. It's like cold, rainy, unusually wintry today. So it's a good day to like be inside and cozy and talk about fun things.
Or not talk about fun things, you know?
We always talk about fun things, and that's why I'm excited that we're here to talk about.
Yeah.
About you and some of the really interesting work that I think that you're doing. I recorded an intro earlier, and in the intro I was saying that we found each other through the magic of Google.
Yes.
And I don't know that Google has done a lot for me in the 3 years of being in private practice because I haven't really paid it much attention, but it brought you to us. And so for that, I thank the magic of Google.
Right. We thank the Google gods.
Yes, because it's been a really fun year having you as part of our office group.
Yeah.
And I feel like every time I talk to you, I start thinking about things I have not really thought about in those ways. It's like you help me think about things in new, progressive ways. And that makes me really excited. Like sometimes I'll go home and just keep thinking about something we talked about. And I'm like, we need more time to talk.
Yes.
We don't have enough time in between clients. So
I mean, that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Good thing.
Yes, we're busy and we're booked and we're happy about that. But also like, I like the people in our office and I want to talk to you more.
Yeah, I know. And it's like now we rarely see each other.
I know. And I kind of knew that was going to happen in private practice, but it still like makes me sad because I like you and Lindsay and like, I just want to like hang out.
Yeah, we mesh really well. It's so crazy how like we all fell in, you know, even being from 3 different disciplines, like.
Yes.
It's crazy. Yes. I love it.
But I also I love that because the thing that I often tell people when they're talking about what's the difference between social work, MFT and LPC. And I always say it's the training, like we're trained differently. And we can do all the same work, but we come at it from a different perspective.
Right.
I love that we have those different perspectives. So if we need to consult about something, you know, you're going to get a fresh perspective on it.
Yes. And that's very helpful. That is very helpful.
It's so helpful. And I've spent most of my career around other social workers. So this has been nice to have some differences and different ways to think about it. So tell me a little bit about what drew you to being an MFT. So I know you had a whole career before then. What made you pick that? And then where did you go to school?
Whoa, that's a full question. Like, how much time do you have?
We got an hour.
So I think that for me, I know it was, yes, I am relaxing on the couch. It was having a lot of teenagers seeing me as the adult, right? That they can come confide in and talk to outside of their family. I did have a career before this. I was working in the penitentiary or whatever, and it got old. And I decided, like, you know, I think I'm ready to do something else in my life. Like, I everyone told me I promoted too quick because I was, I was mid-level there. And I just sat back and was thinking, like, how can I be the best benefit to the world and to myself? And one of the things that I wanted to do was teach parents how to bridge that gap with their kids. Your kids are their own individuals, outside of what you taught them. And I figured that, I want to do some training. I want to do some things like that. And I was going to Lone Star to do my basics. And I met one of the counselors. Her name was Summer. Shout out to Summer. I don't remember her last name. And as we were talking, she was like, I think the path that you want to be on might be a therapist. And she told me, and then not only did she tell me that, but as I was describing what I wanted to do as a career, she was like, I think Our Lady of the Lake University might be a good university for you to, get your master's in. And the rest is history. Summer was spot on. Everything about Olu, Our Lady of the Lake, really spoke to me. And then because I knew I wanted to work primarily with families and relationships, it made sense that the MFT program went their way. And then not only that, with my particular MFT program, I could sit for the LPC license and the MFT license if I chose to do so. So I really got into it to kind of help kids who are teens, not really kids, I don't say kids, but teens and young adults kind of manage finding their identity. And it kind of expounded from there what I'm interested in. I don't consider myself a specialist in anything. I have areas of focus, right? And so my areas of focus have kind of expanded past teenagers and young adults. But that's how I got here.
And so you have been in private practice for over a year. I actually just had to look it up because I couldn't remember.
Yes, it's been over a year
September
now.
1 of last year.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you were doing what you thought you were going to be doing, or has it shifted a bit?
Actually, no. Well, I guess it depends on what the question is, right? I don't feel like I'm doing what I said I was going to do, but it's still in the same realm, right? I vision myself working more with, of course, teens and a lot of queer couples. Like I just knew that my whole practice is going to be nothing but, queer couples. And although I have a lot, I'm really shocked that there are people who, because I have the approaches that I have, I'm the person I have the focus that I have, they're not of the alphabet mafia, right? They're not of the LGBTQI plus community. They still seek me for that reason. So yes, I still see, teens. I'm doing a whole bunch of sexuality work and gender identity work, but I'm also doing a lot of other things. Religious trauma now, sexual assault. One thing I thought I would never do is be a sex offender provider. And I'm enjoying that work as well. Being a sex offender treatment provider. It's really good work. So yeah, I'm doing some of what I thought I would be doing, but a lot more.
That's a pretty wide range of people that you're seeing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. 13 to dead. As old as you can get. If you want to come, I'll see you.
On some of the insurance panels, they make you put in age range. And I think I had to put like 110.
Yeah.
Like, what's the highest number? I like how you said to dead.
Right. To dead, right? To your creator calls you home.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about why you named your practice what you named it. Tell us what it is. Tell us your website and what is the story behind that.
Yeah, so it's Equity Counseling Services. www.equitycounseling.com, right? The world is preaching equality, but equality is not enough. It's not enough. And I wanted the name of my company to show what I'm about, and that's equity. When you step through the doors of my office, you get what you need. Nothing is blanket, right? Even with a couple, you're coming in, and each person in that relationship, not just an intimate relationship, but family, friends, siblings, non-monogamous, right? And everyone needs something different when they come through the door. And so my job as a therapist and at equity counseling is to make sure that I give you what you need, not just give everybody the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that it is common for therapists to just kind of give everybody the same thing? That equality kind of treatment where you have a model and a theory and you stick to it, and everyone you see, that's what you do. Do you think people are doing that or being trained to do that?
I think we're definitely trained to do that on a general scale, right? Not everybody, but on a general scale, especially if you look at things like CBT, right? It's workbook. This is what you do. These are the things that you do. Gottman. These are things that you do. But I think it goes into more than just, is everybody doing the same thing? I think it depends on your lens on life. As we know, as therapists, we're humans, and our own experiences step into the door. And I think it depends on how much of that are you using with your clients to discern if it's equitable or if it's equality. I think we focus in general more on equality. So I would say, yes, we do more of equality, right? This is the things that you have to do with every client. Really, outside of the legality of things, I don't see much that should be done with every single client. Like, for example, one of the things that I was taught was that you don't hug your clients, right? And you have to be able to give every client everything, but that's not the case. I have some clients that love to be hugged. I have some clients that don't even want you to shake their hand, and that's okay. Going to give them what they need, whatever their comfort level is. And as you know, I don't wear shoes, right? Therapists will blow their mind, like, "Oh my God, you wear!" And I'm in sweatshirt, t-shirts, jeans every day. That's not something that most therapists do.
Yeah. I think the idea of equity versus equality is interesting when you're talking about ethics, right? Because ethics tells us you have to provide the same service to everybody, right? Yeah. That's ethical. But if you think about it from equity, that just levels it up, right? Because some people, especially people who have been marginalized, maybe they need more, right? Maybe they need more from us in certain ways, in ways that are still ethical, of course. But I like the example of, you might have a client who is a hugger, and hugging their therapist means a lot to them, right? I'm definitely not a hugger, so I never initially hug. But I have had people over the years like just bear hug me, and I'm short, so they like pick me up. But instead of being like, "Oh, don't do that," you have to think, is this important to them? Did it cross the boundary? Can I just be cool?
Right. Yeah.
About it.
And and it's still respect ethics, because it's open to every client. They get to choose what they want and what they don't want.
Yes.
Now, of course, you have some clients you have to like have that boundary with because of their own experiences and their own histories, and to make sure that that's not crossing the line of safety for that client, right? Right. But it's still available for every client.
Right. So very client-centered in that way.
Oh, very client-centered. Right. I kind of take pause with client-centered. What is that, right? What is that? And not everybody do client-centered the same. So I take kind of pause.
Got you. What does it mean to you? Anything other than what we've just been kind of saying?
That's what it means for me. But not everybody see client-centered that way.
That's true.
For me, if you use non-compliance as a term, you can't be client-centered. Clients give feedback. So if you think of what they're telling you or what they're doing, if you assign a homework assignment and the client doesn't do the homework assignment, that's giving you feedback. That's be therapeutic, right? But if you think of, oh, the client did their homework, they're non-compliant, you're not being client-centered. That client didn't do that homework for a reason. And you can use that therapeutically to find out what it is. Am I giving you a worksheet for homework and saying, do this homework? Or am I collaborating on a homework assignment with you? That's tailored for what we talked about with the session.
Yes. Yes. Big difference.
Big difference.
Yeah. And I think that's, you know, you're a little bit fresher from grad school than I am. I'll say on this recording how long I've been out. Googled, but much longer. And I also don't know that in social work programs, I mean, yes, it's based in theory, but I don't know that we're as strict about theory as maybe LPC and LMFTs, which is very heavily based in theory, and people pick one and that's what they do.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
No, they're not.
I hear about more people who they just kind of have like, this is the theory and I'm sticking to it. And I think there's some clients who really benefit from that, from the protocols.
Of course.
But I also think there's a lot of people who don't fit into those clear cut theories. And this is sort of where we've talked to you before about, and where I kind of want to go with this is that a lot of these theories, do they apply to today's population? Do they apply to people who have been historically marginalized? Right? Are these theories that need to be worked on? Do we need new theories?
Yes and yes.
Do we need new strategies? Yeah.
You know, one of the things that's common. So, as you know, I work a lot with the LGBTQIA plus community, right? Especially where it intersects with Blackness. A lot of these theories are not built for us. All the theories that we know are about white men and white women, right? We having new things now. One of the new things that I love is talking about intersectionalities that come from a Black woman. Cultural humility, which I love presenting on. So cultural humility is a step up from cultural competency.
Yes.
That's created by women of color, Black women, Latin women, right? We're now starting to see things that we can use in sessions that are by people of color and can be used, right? That's the part of that equity, giving people what they need. It elevates everybody, right? What was my point? My point. Oh, yeah. So a lot of these theories, as you know, I love narrative. I love narrative because narrative is the closest you can get to what's your story. What's the story that was given to you and what do you want to come out of it? Working with a lot of queer couples and trans individuals and families that make up those dynamics, the theories that we have present doesn't teach you how to cover those things. They're very hetero European centered theories. So it's a lot of tweaking that has to be done. Not saying that these theories are inherently bad, right? Because they are proven to have been effective, but there are tweaking that you have to do to make sure that they're benefiting your client. Yeah.
Can you say a little bit more about narrative therapy? What are some of the things that you do utilize from that theory?
Yeah. You mean what I don't? That'd be a shorter list, right? So I think instead of talking, what I would like to do, instead of kind of saying what narrative is, I think I want to talk about why I use narrative, if that's okay.
Great.
So narrative was made by Michael White, as you know, and Michael White was about social justice from his perspective. He was really about bringing the outside world in to contrast with what the stories that you've been given to help you get to where you want to go, right? The biggest thing in narrative is the dominant story versus your own story. And with narrative, you have to look at the oppressiveness of the world, right? Racism, sexism, all of the isms, all of the things that you've been taught, all the things that you've been learned, the intersectionalities of it all. So using narrative, it helps with the approach because you get to see the things that are oppressing people. And even, just give an example, you could say that only that only Black people or people of color are oppressed. But when you think about the narrative lens, there is things about racism that oppress white people.
Mm-hmm.
And we're taught these things, right? And narrative can say, okay, this is what you've taught. This is what you've been taught. This is what you've been told. What do you want for yourself? And a lot of messages that we get, we internalize them as it's a part of us or it's our fault. Narrative has an intervention called externalizing the problem. So what that is you bring their problem outside of someone. Someone comes in and say, I have anxiety. Oh, how does anxiety talk to you, right? What is anxiety telling you? Anxiety is coming out of that person. It's not a part of that person. It's something that they are experiencing. And that's what I love about narrative. And that's what I love about it. And it can help someone see clearer the life that they want for themselves. Mm-hmm. And then you can help build them toward that. Michael White used to do this really awesome thing with, ethics. So we're just going to call it group therapy, right? But he used to do this awesome thing where if someone was struggling with a certain problem, he would bring people in that have had them same experiences to talk to these clients. And it's really profound. It's really a community thing for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like the aspect of narrative therapy and the social justice and intersectionality, right, that we're talking about. And this is something that I talk to clients all the time. And this is one of the things I appreciate about the social work perspective is it's not just you and the problem that you're having in the therapy room. Mm-hmm. It's the world around you.
Yes.
Right. So many of people's problems, especially in the last few years, right? It's not just about what's happening in them. These are systemic problems.
Yes. Yes.
That are happening to people in our community, in our world, right? And it's not through any one person's singular fault or problem.
Right.
Right. It's externalizing it, right?
Yep. You're
feeling this and it doesn't mean you're the problem.
Right.
Right. You're feeling it because it's happening to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's, it's kind of funny that you talked about systemic because that's one of the things as an MFT we practice from a systemic lens. We're not only talking to the person that's in front of us, but we're recognizing, like you said, all of these different entities, all these different experiences that they have had plays a part. And it's also being influenced when they're sitting in their room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I've had very few, I don't know if I've had any clients in 20 years, right, that we could say their main issue was themselves, right? Like everyone comes in and they think it's about this one thing, but the more we talk about it and the more we peel apart that onion, those layers, it's systemic. It's systems theory, right?
Yeah.
And family systems, which,
But you got to be careful with that, right? Because when you think about, it's not your fault, we have to be sure that we're not blaming other people as well. Yep. We got to put it on the actual system that's happening. Yeah.
Right. And then figure out, okay, if I can't control it, what am I going to do about it?
Exactly.
That's where I find people get stuck on, right? It's easier to think it's my problem because then I can control it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then you struggle because you can't control it.
But you really can't control it.
But once you recognize that it's not yours, it's the system's, you can choose to throw it away if you don't want it.
Yeah.
Some parts of it.
Right. I mean, I feel like so much of what we're doing is like just empowering people to see what's really going on.
Exactly. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then not only that, but to help them get a bird's eye view so they can figure out how they want to manage their own lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like living in capitalism, that's a huge thing. And some of the younger clients, some of the older clients, all of us, right, we struggle with how to live our best lives in a capitalistic society.
Yeah.
and it can be very distressing. And helping somebody to understand what that system of capitalism is and how they play a part in it can help them choose how they want to play a part in it. How can they use it to better their own lives?
I feel like a lot of the Gen Z clients that I'm seeing now talk about capitalism a lot.
Yeah.
Which is interesting as sort of
single them out like that, only I don't want to be old like that, singling out the younger generation. But yeah, you're right.
I love the generational divides though, because again, it just gives me information. Right? If I know, I often ask clients, how old are your parents? Because it informs me of the world in which they grew up.
Yes.
And then I can help put that in perspective a little bit, perhaps to the client, right? Maybe your parents made some choices, but let me tell you, that was what they were all doing, right?
And that's you explaining the systems to them. Yeah.
It's a system.
It's a
Right?
system.
We are all part of different systems. And if you are not doing the really hard work of awareness, we just get swept up in it.
Yeah, true.
You think you're making choices, but are you really?
Right.
Or are they being made for you? Yeah. But Gen Zers, it's so interesting. They love to talk about capitalism.
Oh yeah.
As if it's ending.
Well,
right? Late. I hear the term late capitalistic.
Late capitalism.
Expletives a lot regularly. And I'm like, oh, they're aware, they're paying attention. I mean, I appreciate that.
Yes, I do too. Yeah. I love that. You learn a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about working with teenagers and parents of teenagers, because I feel like those are two different things. They present as the teen coming in, but really when you get into it, this is a family system issue.
Of course.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So what's your take on that? How do you handle it? What do you do? Yeah.
That kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier with the equity. It's not the same for everybody. But the general theory is it's never the kid. It's always the family system, right? The behaviors that you're seeing from the kid is just a symptom of something. Even with my queer and trans kids, a lot of the times the distress is from the family trying to cope with changing, right? With what they've learned, what they have known and subscribed to about gender and sexuality, and working through those things of trying to now accept this child, or deciding if they want to accept this child in their family who doesn't fit the subscriptions that they have been given and that they have subscribed to. A lot of compassion for the parents is how I handle that. I want to hold space for everybody in the room, regardless of what their perspectives are. Is it challenging? Of course. I'm human, right? And I'm accepting already. You coming into my office knowing that 1, I'm Black, 2, I'm queer, 3, I'm non-binary, right? So I'm going to be accepting of these identities, and they're multifacets already. And it can be difficult as a therapist to kind of sit there and hear these parents say things that are very, very hurtful. So it's a balance of making sure that the teen hears good and positive from the parents, protecting the teen, right? Because we know that the voice that we need to hold and let be heard is typically the kids, because that's who's not being heard. But also having compassion for the parents of where they are in their life, right? Having compassion for their systems, having compassion for these cognitive things that's going on with these experiences that they're having with their teenagers. So I guess that would be the general thing, is compassion.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. I think you're absolutely right. And I feel like as a parent, right, and we're both parents, and
Mm-hmm.
once you become a parent, I I won't say I didn't have compassion for parents before I became a parent, but after becoming a parent, you're like, whoa,
Yeah, a lot more compassion. Yeah,
whoa, this journey is not the journey I signed up for.
right.
I am
Yeah,
not on the path that
yeah.
that the sign said I thought it would. No.
Hmm. You find out that path, those signs is kind of polished. Them signs of what a good
Yes.
parent is polished. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you get that kid that is you, that
Mm.
kid that turns out to be just like you.
You can run for your money. As my
Mm-hmm.
mom would say.
I feel like those are the families I tend to see is, once you bring everybody in the room, you're like, we have two of the same person
Hmm.
here.
Hmm. I love that because I love to point it out. Be like, your child just like you, right? That's
That's
a
why
family.
they're triggering you
Uh-huh.
daily because they are you.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to if you can't deal with your own, so we have to deal with our own stuff and be aware of it, or it runs the show.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where that compassion helps, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
parents often think that they've gotten something wrong, they'll fail you,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
So not only do you have to support the team, you support the parents, and you support the family system.
Yes. And that is a tricky balance sometimes.
It really is. It really is. That's why training is important before you try to take on some stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Can we pivot a little bit into what I find really interesting that we talk about, which is relationship counseling?
Ooh, fun.
And when we first started talking about it, I said the word couples therapy, and then we stopped and we're like, wait, no. We can't, couples is the wrong word,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And I feel like you called it something else, and now I can't find it in my brain.
Relational therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell people I'm a relationship counselor or a
Right.
relationship therapist.
Yes.
That's the word I use. Because just, we're talking about how theories don't fit.
Mm-hmm.
A title, licensed marriage and family therapist, that doesn't fit today's time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
A lot of people think that, they can only be seen if they are married or if they're
Right.
a family, but that's not the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I like relationship because one of my areas of focus is non-monogamous.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows people who don't see themselves as just a couple to be able to come in and be comfortable right off the start. We're talking about what they want to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think you had a question and I just kind of rambled.
Well, no, I just that's something that I want to dig a little deeper into because talking about generations, and I'm putting that in quotes. A lot of the Gen Z clients I see are interested in non-monogamy,
Mm-hmm.
and I see that as a significant shift that is going to happen in the next 20 years. Right? I think we're going to see more and more relationships that look different than what we've really ever seen before.
Right.
Right. And I mean, I can tell you, I was not trained in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then seeking out training now, it doesn't really exist, right? I can think of like one group in Michigan that I think it's the Modern Sex Therapy Institute.
Mm-hmm.
They have some interesting courses that are a bit more progressive. I don't even know what the right word really to use is. Forward thinking. But otherwise, it's hard to find that theory to ground in.
Right.
Because it's a totally different dynamic.
Yeah. So that's kind of where you have to step away from theory and you go toward experience and integrate that with theory. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot. Oh, I gotta stop using that word. There are quite a few good trainings.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of off the top of my head, but I know it's this MFT named Skeets. He's done a non-monogamous training with Texas Association of Marriage and Family Therapy. Really good presentation.
All right, I will look that up and we will link that.
Yeah. And another thing, this is why consultations are important. Mm-hmm. Because you might not be able to find a training that fits, but you know clinicians who work with those populations, they might be able to guide you with trainings and books and things like that. A lot of sex therapists, you know, who have the ASEX certification, they work a lot in those things. So they're good resources for people as well. Yeah, but you're right. It's not a general consensus because it's still kind of taboo. And I'll tell you, you know, as a relationship therapist, non-monogamous is happening way more than we would like to think that it's happening, which is okay. It should be like that. But a lot of people keep it quiet because of the fear of being judged for not being in this getting comfortable, heteronormative, you know, monogamous relationship.
Yeah. Is there anything in particular you think that is helpful strategy-wise when you are working with couples who may be non-monogamous or thinking about it, or just people who don't fit into that? I know traditional is the wrong word to use too here.
Yes, it is.
But that stereotype that we've kind of been taught this whole time.
I would say conventional. Yeah. First, you have to, you know, I'm very much about self of a therapist. All the trainings that I've been presenting on lately have been about self of the therapist. Okay. And I think that's where you start. You need to check your own biases, you know, especially if your lens is a monogamous lens. Are you giving these clients what they need from their point of view? Or is your monogamous lens getting in the way? I think that's where you start. Secondly, that's where those consults come in. That's where supervision comes in. Being open as a clinician to talk about the things that might not be so great, because we're all human. We can't grow as clinicians if we're not willing to talk about the things that we're just not quite getting right. And also know your competency level. If this is something that you don't know how to handle, if this is something that you've never had experience in, don't just try to wing it. Refer them out until you get training. I think that answered your question. I'm not even sure what the question was.
No, I think that is very sage advice. I was just wondering if there's any strategies in particular that you use in the therapy room with clients. Yeah,
so it's actually a book called Consensual Non-Monogamy.
Okay, yes, I have seen this. It's on my to-read list. It has not been read yet.
It's a really good book. I haven't read the whole book, but it's really good. And there's not really interventions, I would say, that I use as much as integrating into an intervention, if that makes sense, right? And it goes back to systems work, dominant story work, right? A lot of times it's what have you learned about what a relationship should look like, and how do you want your relationship to look? I do a lot of question. What's that? A lot again? I do. There actually is a lot of recognizing the history of how something happened and why things are the way they are. How were you taught that only one partner at a time was what it was supposed to be? Is that what you want? Why do you think, you know, you're cheated on every partner that you've been with? Have you talked about the rules of what an open or non-monogamous relationship would look like? Is really getting down to this, how it works, the steps, and thinking about the steps and the desires, right? being open about what your desires are that you want between you and your partner or partners, and how to achieve that. The normal thing that we all have. You might be a multi-loving person, but jealousy is still an emotion that's in us as humans. How do you manage those situations? How do you manage when something comes up that you're in the middle of playing and you recognize, hey, this is something that I don't really like? How do you talk through that, right? It's those kind of things. So as I'm talking, I'm kind of thinking like the intervention would be premarital counseling, right? Talking through those steps and just being allowing with everything, sitting in that uncomfortable space that your clients might be afraid to be sitting in, because that's what they pay us for. Change happens as we sit into those uncomfortable spaces. And that's what we're getting paid for, sit in those uncomfortable spaces.
Asking those questions, right?
Yes.
That, I always call it detective work. Right? Like we're asking the questions, we're digging a little deeper.
Right. Yeah. Without judgment. And with compassion. That
goes back to the first thing you were saying, which is so poignant, right? We have to check our bias.
Yes.
We all have it. Right? We all grew up in this society that said there was one way to do everything. And maybe that changes a couple generations down the road. But for where we are in this moment, we all live here.
Yes.
And so that bias is here whether we buy into it or not.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. And sometimes your first brain hits you with that bias. And the second brain has to kick in to be like, no, this is not it. This is not what I'm subscribing to right now. Yeah.
But even premarital therapy, right? Like we even need some new words for that. We need some new concepts for that, right? I feel like if relationship therapy was destigmatized, be a different world.
Of course. On a grander scheme, right? Because it's not relationship therapy that's stigmatized. It's the ideal. It's perfectionism. We got to get rid of perfectionism. People don't really want to do it because it's a sign of failure. Many people don't seek relationship therapy until they're in conflict, not knowing that it's okay to go before you're in conflict. Where everything is blissful is the perfect time to go, so that it's like a tune-up. You keep it going before the car breaks down. But because of perfectionism, because most people, I didn't say a lot, most people, they don't, it's that idea of what happens at home stays at home. And so you get the couple that's been together for 40, 50 years, and they're like, oh yeah, we've had our disagreements, but love's seen us through. But you don't get the realness of what's happening and how many times this person had done this, or this had happened, or this was said and that was said. You only get the good. You don't get to hear the bad. So people have a false sense of what relationships really should look like.
You just said so much in that last sentence, because I do feel like societally we don't have examples of what everyday normal relationship conflict looks like, right? We have either it's great and love saw us through,
right,
or we hate each other, destroy.
Right.
There is no example of people have conflict and they learn how to resolve it. Where's that? Right.
Or it's okay to walk away. A relationship ending does not signify you as a failure.
Right.
Relationships end just like that. One of the things that I have learned from the teens is that this Gen Z, as you put it, and whoever's after Gen Z was Gen Alpha. They are moving away.
I think they're going to call it Gen Alpha.
Okay.
That's what our kids are, Gen Alpha.
They're moving away from this forever. It's now for a decade.
Yeah. Have you actually heard people say for a decade?
Yeah. The younger The younger
Yeah.
generation is saying for a decade.
Okay.
They're not saying forever.
Okay.
It's that I've encountered some. Not saying everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hearing that more often with them that it's for a decade. It's my love for a decade.
I mean, when you're that age, a decade seems like forever.
Right.
So legit.
It is forever. Yeah.
Yeah. But and I've said this to people for years and said it to myself, you know, my personal life. People didn't used to live that long. Right? The idea that marriage was for life. Well, life wasn't as long.
Life was 25, right?
No.
Yeah.
Life is like tripled. So, and the ideas of marriage and relationship has changed so dramatically. It's like we need to rewrite this book.
Yes. We are trying to live in a modern society with antiquated theories.
And that could be the title of this conversation.
Because that's exactly what it is.
Yes. I mean, I feel like relationship theory, sure, we're drawing on some concrete good techniques about communication, right? And affection and love and things. But, you know, this is where we get into systemic change affects it.
Yes.
You know, the world changing around us. Even I feel like in my lifetime, society has changed significantly. Even in 20 years of my adult life, the world has changed a lot.
Even with them trying to take us back 50 years, it still has changed.
But see, we're aware of it.
Right. Yeah.
I don't even want to go back 20. No, I don't want to go back to the 90s. No, thanks.
I don't even want to go back 10. I don't want to go back past 2015. When I wouldn't have been allowed to marry the person that I wanted to marry for a decade. Yeah. So it's, I think what you're doing is exciting. And I hope that we see more and more people doing what you're doing in ways that you're doing it. And I know you supervise people, and that's exciting because hopefully they will also sort of take some of the same things that you're doing and find their own unique ways. Exactly.
To help people. And I think what you said about, you know, there's a lot of people who don't fit into the categories of people you thought that you were going to be working with, because I think people, even if they aren't right in the alphabet mafia, even if they aren't the same race, when you see a therapist that is as open as you are, that's exciting.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And
it also excites me though. You know, I don't want it to sound like it's something that I don't enjoy. It excites me that you are not who I envision sitting in front of me, but yet you still see value in doing so.
Yes.
I love that.
And I can understand why someone would see that value, because if you're looking for someone to help you make change, you want someone who thinks outside the box, who's not bound to traditional narratives. Yeah.
I challenge those every day. Being a social constructionist, I challenge everything.
Yeah.
Every day. I'm having new epiphanies all the time.
And that's the right way to do this work, right? Like, it also changes us.
Yes.
I mean, I'll say, the world has changed in 20 years, but 20 years of social work has made me a totally different person. Because of all of the people that I have encountered. I mean, at this point, I tried to count once and I got to be too big. Like, how many clients have I actually had?
Oh, wow.
In all these years? Especially doing community-based work when you're seeing hundreds of people at a time. Yeah. Like thousands.
Yeah.
Right? And how can you do this work and not be changed?
Of course. Yeah.
By people and their lives and their experiences. And it's exciting. I love it.
when I found you, like looking at your CV, I was like, do I want to go and work in the same office, or do I want her to be my therapist? Like, that CV was amazing, and it speaks to the changes. It does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when I think I updated my have my pictures retaken with, you know, I have got a little purple in the hair and some little ink now than I did when I first started, and I want people to like not be misled when you look at the picture, right? Like, please know what you're walking into, right? Like, this is a progressive space, right? And everyone in our office also, you know, is open and welcoming, and like, we are here for people.
This is a very, you know, I've moved past saying that my office is a safe place. It's an affirming place.
Yes. Yeah.
It's very affirming.
Yeah. When people walk in, I want them to know that. And I think they do. And working with other people, and that was important to us too, is finding other people who were affirming and open and doing innovative things. And because that's the way it is. Like, yeah. Yep. So you're doing super good work.
I'm trying.
And I love talking to you about this stuff.
I know.
And I keep referring people to you, so.
Keep sending them. I will never.
Oh, I know this. You gotta go. You gotta go see this person. You have relationship issues? You have teens? I don't really do that.
yeah. I love it. You know, a lot of people, I hear a lot of people say that, a lot of clinicians say that they would never work with couples. And I love relationships. I love them. That's the best work. And I love individuals. Don't get me wrong. I love it all. I might as well just say it. I love it all.
Yeah, couples is not my thing, and I'm fine with that, and I realize that. But this is why I have great people
exactly
to refer to.
You know, I know what we talked about, the focus of, you know, what you wanted for your podcast. And I think that's a very important part to make, is recognizing that you don't have to see everybody. Not every population is going to be for you. Not every issue is going to be for you. It's okay to refer out. In fact, that's what makes you the best clinician, is knowing when to refer out.
Yeah. And I think that's hard, those of us coming from community-based work, because we didn't have that option for a long time, right? You learn to see everybody, and you learn to treat everything whether you like it or not.
Right.
And so then when it comes time to have a choice in the matter, sometimes that's hard to say, well, I don't want to turn anyone away, but I really don't like this. And so that's something I know when with my supervisees, we talk about, what do you like? What makes your skin crawl? Like, you have to be aware of it, and you just have to own it. And you don't have to see the people that make your skin crawl, right?
That's true. Yeah.
We don't have to. We all have our things.
We do.
That's normal. That's okay. Find someone who loves that.
Yeah. There's always someone that loves that. Yeah.
Yes.
Like your sex offenders, especially the teen sex offenders. Send them out.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, only in Texas.
All right.
I should say that, huh?
Be careful what you wish for.
I know. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Speaking into the atmosphere, it shall come.
Yes. Be careful what you put out there. Yeah. Because it's coming back. It's listening.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to link to your website.
Okay.
And if people want to make an appointment with you, what is the best way to do that?
They can send a message through the portal online. Okay. They can send a message through Psychology Today, or they can call the number that's on the website and talk to my wonderful admin, and she will definitely help them get on the schedule.
Okay. And do you have openings?
I do. I have a few. It's the holidays, so I have a few.
Yeah.
So
it's a busy time of year.
Yeah, they can definitely get in. And if I can't take them, I'm always willing to help them find someone who might be a better fit. You know, if they choose me, and then I'm like, maybe this is not. Let's find someone that might be a better fit. I'm always willing to do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this conversation.
No, thank you for having me. Oh, see, I did it again. It was fun. It was fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.